Indian Economic Development textbook for class 11. I finished reading Indian Economy on the Eve of Independence. On to the second chapter, Indian Economy 1950 to 1990. And after studying the chapters, you'll know that the goals of India's 5-year plans, why planning was important after independence. So it all began the 5-year plans, and you will know about the development policies in different sectors such as agriculture and industry from 1950 to 1990 because 1991 we had the new economic policy. And then you'll also think about the merits and limitations of a regulated economy. So reading the introduction, on 15th August 1947, India woke to a new dawn of freedom. Finally, we were masters of our own destiny after some 200 years of British rule. The job of nation building was now in our own hands. The leaders of independent India had to decide, among other things, the type of economic system most suitable for our nation, a system which would promote the welfare of all rather than a few. There are different types of economic systems. So what are they? You have the capitalistic system, you have the socialistic system, and you have the mixed economy. And we did take up the mixed economy. And among them, socialism appealed to Jawaharlal Nehru the most. However, he was not in favor of the kind of socialism established in the former Soviet Union, where all the means of production, that is, all the factories and firms in the country were owned by the government. There was no private property. It is not possible in a democracy like India for the government to change the ownership pattern of land and other properties. Its citizen in the way that it was done in the former Soviet Union. Nehru and many other leaders and thinkers of the newly independent India sought an alternative to the extreme versions of capitalism and socialism. Basically, sympathizing with the socialist outlook, they found the answer in an economic system which in their view combined the best features of socialism without its drawbacks. In this view, India would be a socialist society with a strong public sector, but also with private property and democracy. So don't we make a do-it list, whatever, for the smooth day-to-day functioning, or we make a timetable? In the same manner, the government decided to plan for the economy, with the private sector being encouraged to be part of the planned effort. The Industrial Policy Resolution of 1948 and the directive principles of the Indian Constitution reflected this outlook. In 1950, the Planning Commission was set up with the Prime Minister as its chairperson, and thus the era of 5-year plans or your 5-year plans had begun. So what is a plan? A plan spells out how the resources of a nation should be put to its use. So in a way, plans are the timetable, as you would call them, to make the best use of the given resources, the scarce resources that you have. And we went on with the 5-year plans. Our plan documents not only specify the objectives to be attained in the 5 years of a plan, but also what is to be achieved over a period of 20 years. This long-term plan is called perspective plan. The 5-year plans are supposed to provide the basis for the perspective plan. Now, it'll be unrealistic to expect all the goals of a plan to be given equal importance in all the plans. In fact, the goals may actually be in conflict. For example, the goal of introducing modern technology may be in conflict with the goal of increasing employment if the technology reduces the need for labor. So the planners have to balance the goals A very difficult job indeed. We find different goals being emphasized in different plans in India. Our 5-year plans do not spell out how much of each and every good and service is to be produced. This is neither possible nor necessary. It is enough if the plan is specific about the sectors where it plays a commanding role. For instance, power generation and irrigation, while leaving the rest to the market. Now let's talk about the goals of 5-year plans. Plans should have some clearly specified goals. The goals of the 5-year plans are growth, modernization, self-reliance, and equity. This does not mean that all the plans have given equal importance to all these goals. Due to limited resources, a choice has to be made in each plan about which of the goals is to be given primary importance. Nevertheless, the planners have to ensure that as far as possible, the policies of the plans do not contradict these 4 goals. Let us now learn about the goals of planning in some detail. Let's just talk about growth. It refers to increase in the country's capacity to produce the output of goods and services within the country. It implies either a larger stock of productive capital or a larger size of supporting services like transport and banking, or an increase in the efficiency of productive capital and services. A good indicator of economic growth, in the language of economics, is a steady increase in the GDP, gross domestic product. The GDP is the market value of all the goods and services produced in the country during a year. You can think of the GDP as a cake, and growth is the increase in the size of the cake. If the cake is larger, more people can enjoy. Right? It is necessary to produce more goods and services if the people of India are to enjoy, in the words of the first 5-year plan, a more rich and varied life. The GDP of a country is derived from the different sectors of the economy, namely the agricultural sector, the industrial sector, and the service sector. The contribution made by each of these sectors make up the structural composition of the economy. In some countries, growth in agriculture contributes more to the GDP growth, while in some countries, the growth in the service sector contributes more to the GDP growth. The second goal is modernization. To increase the production of goods and services, the producers have to adopt new technology. For example, a farmer can increase the output on the farm by using new seed varieties instead of using the old ones. Similarly, a factory can increase output by using a new type of machine. Adoption of new technology is called modernization. However, modernization does not refer only to the use of new technology, but also to changes in social outlook, such as the recognition that women should have the same rights as men. In a traditional society, women are supposed to remain at home while men work. A modern society makes use of the talents of women in the workplace, in banks, factories, schools, etc. And such a society, in most occasions, is also prosperous. So coming on to the third goal, self-reliance. So which was the first one that we did? Growth. Second was modernization. And now I'm going to read self-reliance. A nation can promote economic growth and modernization by using its own resources or by using resources imported from other nations. The first 7 5-year plans gave importance to self-reliance, which means avoiding imports of those goods which could be produced in India itself. This policy was considered a necessity in order to reduce our dependence on foreign countries, especially for food. It is understandable that people who were recently freed from foreign domination should give importance to self-reliance. Further, it was feared that dependence on imported food supplies, foreign technology, and foreign capital may make India's sovereignty vulnerable to foreign interference in our policies. So then we come to equity, the fourth goal, long-term goal. Now, growth, modernization, and self-reliance by themselves may not improve the kind of life which people are living. A country can have high growth, the most modern technology developed in the country itself, and have also most of its people living in poverty. It is important to ensure that the benefits of economic prosperity reach the poor sections as well, instead of being enjoyed only by the rich. So, in addition to growth, modernization, and self-reliance, equity is also important. Every Indian should be able to meet his or her basic needs such as food, a decent house, education, and health care, and inequality in the distribution of wealth should be reduced. Let us now see how the first 7 5-year plans covering the period 1950 to 1990 attempted to attain these 4 goals and the extent to which they succeeded in doing so with reference to agriculture, industry, and trade. You will study the policies and developmental issues taken up after 1991 in Chapter 3.